Sir David was taken from us in a contemptible act of violence, striking at the core of what it is to be a member of this House and violating the sanctity both of the church in which he was killed and the constituency surgery that is so essential to our representative democracy. But we will not allow the manner of Sir David's death in any way to detract from his accomplishments as a politician or as a human being. Because Sir David was a patriot who believed passionately in this country, in its people, in its future. He was also one of the nicest, kindest, and most gentle individuals ever to grace these benches.
A cowardly attack on a public servant doing his job is an attack on our country and on our way of life. A way of life that prizes tolerance, democracy and respect, that accepts our differences but cherishes our commonalities, that refuses to succumb to the poison of extremism. No matter what perverted cause, faith or ideology these attackers support, their intention is always the same: to sow division amongst us. And that's why our response must always be to show that we will never be cowed, that our bonds to one another can never be eroded, that the hatred that took Sir David's life will never win.
In the last few years, David had become increasingly concerned about what he called the toxic environment in which MPs, particularly female MPs, were having to operate. He was appalled by what he called the vile misogynistic abuse which female MPs had to endure online, and he told me very recently that he wanted something done about it. Came here to try, for which we are now systematically vilified, day after day. And I simply say to you, ladies and gentlemen, that enough is enough.
As it is only a short time since Sir David last put that very case to me in this chamber, I am happy to announce that Her Majesty has agreed that Southend will be accorded the city status it so clearly deserves.
He was kind and good, but for me, above all else, he was funny, and he didn't take himself too seriously.
I've blocked out much of what happened when Joe was murdered, but I remember very clearly the moment I took the phone call saying she had been attacked. I remember physically trembling and the visceral pain that overtook me, and it breaks my heart to think that another family has had to experience that phone call and the nightmare which follows. It's a roller coaster of deep trauma that no one should have to experience.
I would like to share the story of the boiled sweet. David was a regular visitor to the Vatican, given his faith, and in the receiving line, perhaps slightly absent-mindedly, being used to these things, people were getting items blessed. David, having a sore throat, reached into his pocket for a boiled sweet. David got his timing wrong. The Pope took the sweet, thinking it was a revered object to be blessed. Blessed the revered object. And David had to put it in his pocket. A holy sweet. And when David would tell the anecdote, as he would do many a time, I suspect you've all heard it, he'd again reach into his pocket and say, "And this is the sweet that was blessed." Mr. Speaker, I suspect there have been many sweets passed off as the holy sweet, but there is only one chosen one.
Sir David was one of the most dedicated, but also the most affable of MPs. He looked beyond party differences to work with so many of us on a multitude of issues of common concern, and that's why there are tears on all sides of the House this afternoon.
Joe said to us, "We have more in common than that which divides us." David showed us how to do that, because whilst he had disagreements with pretty much every one of us, he also had the unerring instinct of finding what it was he had in common with each and every one of us as well.
Among some of his closest friends, he was known affectionately as the late Sir David Amess. Well, now he really is the late Sir David Amess, isn't he? But I am absolutely determined, and I ask for your support in this, that he will not have died in vain. He's now resting in the arms of the God he worshipped so devotedly his whole life. So farewell, David, my colleague, my great friend. In fact, quite simply, the best bloke I ever knew. I thank the House for its indulgence.